Welcome back to Mindful Stoicism. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone who hurt you, abandoned you, or caused you emotional pain suddenly reappears in your life? It's a strange and unsettling feeling, isn't it? You may have thought their departure was final after all. When they walked away, it felt like the end of the chapter. You healed, you moved on, and yet here they are, coming back like nothing ever happened. Why would they do this? And even more importantly, how should you respond when they return? These are questions that many of us grapple with, and they are not as straightforward as they might seem. On the surface, it may seem irrational or confusing when someone who caused you pain suddenly wants to re-enter your life. But the truth is, there are underlying psychological reasons behind this behavior. It's not always about you, but about them and their unresolved emotions, fears, or needs. In today's video, we're going to delve into the psychology of why people who hurt you might come back, and how you can use the wisdom of Stoic philosophy to navigate this complex emotional terrain. Stoicism teaches us the crucial lesson of emotional resilience, emphasizing that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. Your ability to remain grounded in the face of someone's return will determine whether you remain in control of your emotions or let the situation cloud your peace. Stick around till the end, because how you choose to react in this moment can either help heal your heart or lead you back into a cycle of pain and confusion. This video is not just about understanding their motives, it's about how you can use this knowledge to protect your peace and make wise choices for your emotional well-being. Let's dive deeper into why this happens. 1. The power of guilt. One of the most powerful emotions that can drive someone to return after hurting you is guilt. Guilt is an incredibly uncomfortable feeling, one that often compels people to take action to ease the internal conflict they experience. When someone hurts you, they might not fully understand the depth of their actions in the moment. Their decisions may have been impulsive, selfish, or even unintentional, and the repercussions of those actions may not have become clear to them until later. The absence of your presence in their life can force them to confront the consequences of their behavior in a way that no other event or interaction can. When they begin to realize the pain they've caused, the guilt starts to weigh heavily on them. They may start to question themselves. Did I make a mistake? Was it worth it? In many cases, they feel a deep sense of regret for their actions, especially if they begin to see you thriving or moving on without them. The idea that they've permanently lost you can be a painful realization. This guilt can push them to return, hoping for forgiveness or reconciliation, so that they can at least ease the burden they feel within themselves. However, it's important to note that while guilt can be a motivator for their return, it's not necessarily an indication of true growth or a shift in character. Sometimes people return because they want to alleviate their own discomfort, not necessarily because they've changed or fully understand the harm they've caused. From a Stoic perspective, we cannot control the emotions or actions of others. The return of someone motivated by guilt is something external, and we should not let it dictate our emotional state. As Stoics, we learn to focus on our own growth and inner peace, recognizing that while others may feel guilt, we must remain detached from their emotional baggage. Their return is their responsibility. To navigate your peace comes from within, not from their actions. 2. Fear of losing you. One of the most powerful reasons someone who hurt you might return is the deep, often unconscious fear of losing you forever. This fear isn't necessarily about their love for you or even a desire to reconcile, but rather a realization that they may have lost someone who was significant in their life. In the moment of leaving, they may not have fully understood your value, but with time and distance, the absence of your presence becomes undeniable. The fear of losing you forever can stem from a variety of emotions. Perhaps they didn't realize the depth of your bond until it was gone, or they took you for granted, assuming you would always be there. In the absence of your attention, affection, and support, they begin to see how much they relied on you, and the idea of living without you becomes overwhelming. This fear can be triggered by a sense of loneliness, rejection, or even seeing you move on and thrive without them. Human beings are wired to avoid loss, especially when it comes to relationships. This is why some people who once hurt you may return, seeking to regain what they lost. They may not be ready to fully invest in a healthy, long-term relationship, but they fear the idea of you becoming a distant memory or finding happiness without them. For them, it's not about regret for the hurt they caused. It's about the uncomfortable realization that their world has changed in a way they didn't anticipate, and they want to reclaim a piece of it. As Stoics, we are taught to detach from outcomes. You cannot control their fears or actions, but you can control your own response. If they return out of fear, recognize this as their internal conflict, not your responsibility to fix. Your peace must remain unshaken, regardless of their insecurities or fears. 3. The cycle of validation. One of the key reasons someone may return after hurting you is the need for validation. People often seek external validation to feel worthy or loved, and this need can become an overwhelming force in their lives. In the context of relationships, validation isn't just about affirming their worth. It's about reassuring themselves that they matter, that they're desirable, and that they are still capable of maintaining a connection with someone. When someone hurts you and then walks away, they may feel a temporary sense of relief or satisfaction, but with time, they often face a deep inner void. This void stems from the absence of the validation you once provided. The love, attention, and affirmation you gave them may have been their source of self-esteem, and without it, they might feel unimportant, invisible, or incomplete. In other words, when they left, they may have unknowingly severed a crucial source of validation that they didn't even realize they needed so badly until it was gone. Over time, this feeling of emptiness can become overwhelming. They may start to second-guess their decision to leave, wondering if they made a mistake by rejecting the positive feedback and emotional support you once provided. In an attempt to fill this emotional gap, they return to you, not necessarily because they want to repair the hurt they caused, but because they crave the validation they once had. They want to know that despite their past actions, you still care enough to welcome them back. However, this cycle can become toxic. It places the responsibility for their emotional well-being on you, and it often ignores the real damage they may have caused. By returning for validation alone, they may not truly recognize the harm they've done, and their return can end up being a selfish attempt to soothe their own insecurities rather than genuinely repairing the relationship. A true Stoic understands that validation should not be sought from others, but from within. Your worth is inherent. You do not need someone's return to feel complete. When they come back seeking validation, remember, your peace should never depend on someone else's recognition of your value. 4. The test of character. When someone who has hurt you returns, it's not just a test of their intentions, it's a test of your character. This moment is a reflection of who you are and how well you have cultivated your emotional resilience. Think of it as a crossroads. The decision you make here will reveal the strength of your character, your ability to rise above your past wounds, and your capacity for maintaining your inner peace. The Stoic approach to situations like this is to rise above the emotional chaos and meet it with wisdom, clarity, and self-control. You are not a slave to your emotions, and you should never let the actions of others dictate your state of mind. Their return is an opportunity for you to show how well you have mastered yourself, how well you've learned from the past, and whether you can remain calm and collected in the face of external disruptions. At this point, your reaction is crucial. Will you respond with anger, bitterness, or the desire for revenge? Or will you demonstrate strength by not allowing their return to disturb your peace? Stoicism teaches us to be indifferent to external events. While we may feel hurt or tempted to respond impulsively, we have the power to control our reactions. The key here is to act with deliberate intent, not emotional impulse. This is where your practice of detachment comes into play. Detachment doesn't mean indifference to the person. It means letting go of any unhealthy attachment to outcomes. If they return with the hope of reconciling, you don't have to rush into a decision or let the emotions of the moment cloud your judgment. You can choose to assess the situation carefully, recognizing that your peace and well-being come from within, not from whether or not they stay in your life. Ultimately, this is a test of your emotional strength and your ability to stay true to yourself, regardless of what others may do. Funny, what should you do when they return? When someone who has hurt you comes back into your life, it can trigger a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, anger, sadness, and even a sense of longing. You might feel tempted to welcome them with open arms, to forgive and forget, or to give them a second chance. But Stoicism teaches us that our emotional well-being must not be dictated by external circumstances, including the return of someone who has caused us pain. So what should you do in this moment? First and foremost, it's important to pause and reflect. Don't react impulsively or based on the emotions of the moment. Stoicism teaches the power of emotional detachment, the ability to create space between a situation and your reaction to it. Take a step back and give yourself time to think. Ask yourself, why are they returning? What do they truly want from me? Is their return an act of genuine remorse, or is it simply because they've realized they miss you or need validation? Understanding their motives is key to determining how you should respond. Next, consider your own feelings and boundaries. When someone returns after hurting you, it's essential to check in with yourself. Have you truly healed from the pain they caused? Are you ready to re-engage with them emotionally, or do you still need time to rebuild your own sense of peace? Your emotional health should be your priority. Lastly, detach from the idea that their return is necessary for your happiness or closure. True inner peace comes from within, not from another person's presence or validation. Stoicism teaches that by controlling your own reactions and decisions, you retain power over your life no matter what others do. So, when they return, remain grounded in your own values and make choices that reflect your inner strength and peace. The return of someone who hurt you can be emotionally confusing, but by applying Stoic wisdom, you can navigate it with grace. Remember that their actions are outside your control, but your response is entirely within your hands. Use this as an opportunity to strengthen your character and maintain your peace, regardless of what they do. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Mindful Stoicism for more insights on how Stoic philosophy can help you lead a peaceful, empowered life. And if you've ever been in a situation like this, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about how you've handled similar situations.